and welcome to Buckman's Model Mania. Today I'm going to be working on pack 11. Let me double check. I think it's pack 11. No, pack 12, sorry. Pack 12 of the Moomin house. Already got the parts out. The reason I was thinking pack 11 is these parts are left over from pack 11. Got the wallpaper. This was actually 12B. This was pack A. Pack 12A, I believe. Yeah, 12A, it says on the paper. And so, last time when I got done, I was concerned because there was a gap between the walls when I put this on. So I've stuck a piece of wood in here to kind of close that up. It actually does really well. It's more on this side than on the other side, but it is now closed up, so it should work really well. And what it's telling me, what it tells you to do first off is to take the walls, fit them, you know, they were actually fit, and make sure that they fit on there okay. I've actually had the, I actually store this with both the below and the above plate attached. But what we're going to do today, the first thing we're going to do is on this side, we're going to put, which this is parts I and J, we're going to put this wallpaper on, and probably going to have to use their method, unlike when I did it before on these, because these are so large. On there, when I tried to do it, run from the top down, it didn't work very well. This time I'm going to go from the top down rather than across the side, I think. I'm still not sure. It may work out better going side to side. Actually, matter of fact, I think it will because of the curve. The curve kind of makes it a little bit iffy when you're trying to do it. And so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that and then come back. Okay, so I'm about halfway done with this, and I want to show you, you actually have to overlap it a little bit here. It'll overlap a little bit on both sides, which will help to close up that gap as well. The key thing is you need to make sure that the top edge, as much as possible, is lined up, and the bottom edge will line up because you're going to be trimming this piece when it's done. But you want to make sure you push it down firmly all the way across and all the way down. And then it says to either wrap or trim. I tend to wrap the edge across here. And this is a little bit more difficult than the ones here because you were ending in the middle of the sheets or in the middle of the wall, so you had a spot to start and stop. Once you're satisfied with the way it's on here, and it's pokes up just a hair, I mean less than a millimeter up here, and it matches really well on the bottom. Once you're satisfied with the fit, what you'll do, and I believe this is almost brand new scalpel from yesterday. I changed it yesterday. Let me see, where is, because of the curve, I'm not going to try and cut it here because what's going to happen is it's going to be up a little bit. So I'm going to lay it on the block here, and I'm going to get it flat as possible, and I'm just going to run my scalpel down the edge. The block is actually not quite long enough, but that's okay. I'm going to do the same here. The key thing is having as much space flat against the block as possible. And then do the same here. This upper edge is going to be a little bit tricky. Let me make sure I've got it cut all the way across. It's a little bit tricky because it is curved. Make sure you're using as sharp a knife as you can get. Brand new blade is very preferable. Very carefully cut across because the edge of this cut may be a little bit visible. Don't jerk it, don't do anything crazy with it, and don't know that I'm going to need this for anything, but that's a fairly large piece. Make sure this folds over. There's a little bit of overhang, which is good because I can fold it over. Let me do the same thing on this side. And there's that wallpaper. And that wall will line up with, if I did it right, it'll line up perfectly like this with that seam underneath the wall here. And it should. I've looked at it with both packs on. And it actually marries up very good now, where I used to have a really big gap at the bottom. So I'm gonna pause the video again. I'm gonna do the same thing with this one and do the whole thing and cut it out. Matter of fact, one thing I will tell you is I looked at it and I matched it up on this one. These pretty much match up either direction you go. Actually, that one's a little bit off. Let me see if I flip it over, because I want the pattern to look like it's a continuous piece. And with this, with where these flowers are, this is probably as close as I'm going to get. I didn't do, this one matches perfect to here. This one, not so much. So let me go ahead and pause here, put this sheet of wallpaper on, and I'll be back once I have the hole cut. Okay, so now the wallpaper's on both sides. I did have a little bit of excess here, so I actually ended up peeling it back off so that I could cut it. And perfect example, I did split the paper a couple of times here. You might be tempted, if you do this, to just pull the backing off, lay it down. You don't want to do that, because if you end up catching it somewhere, you're going to wrinkle it and it's going to look bad. I also didn't point out right here, there you can see a little bit of a seam, same thing over here. There was a little bit of a gap. I filled that, sanded it down, got it as smooth to the feel. Obviously not perfect, but well enough that you're not going to be able to see it down inside of this dollhouse. So let me get the brick out of here. Turn on to the next page, and the next thing we're going to do is take these parts from pack 11 and actually attach them. Make sure I've got this the right direction, and I do not, so it's going to go on here. And so this is going to lay on here like this, and you can see there's a spot for the pin, for the pins on these here and here, and also there's going to be in the floor. What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to lay this on, put this onto the floor before I glue it. After I glue this top piece, and by the way, if you can see once this top piece is on, it will seal it pretty good. But after I glue this top piece on, I will very likely just do a put it on the floor so that I can make sure that it is good and it's in the right spot. I don't need this wall to be a little bit cattywampus because of that. And just to make sure, let me take a look in here. Split these apart. Finish the edges with white paint, because obviously they could not do that with this being actually held together. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on, paint these, glue them on, and then I'll be back. Let me pop back in here for a second before I finish. One thing I forgot to mention is if you look, you can see the spots where the pieces were hooked together, and this is a really rough side. So take a sanding stick of some sort, something that you've got, take sandpaper, whatever you have, smooth that, so that, because if you can feel it, you can see it. And this is going to be an exposed edge, so you want to smooth that out as much as possible. And just running the sanding stick over top of the edge works really well. You don't have to go very deep. You don't have to go deep at all. And there we go. I was using the less abrasive sanding side. It's going to take some of that laser burn off. But the key thing is, you want it as pristine as you can. Matter of fact, probably a better method is to do it like that, where you're getting the whole thing at the same time. You do the same thing on this side. And this is something you do with any wooden models. So that's smooth edge. It's not going to show up. So I'm going to go paint, glue, and I'll be back. Okay, the wall has been painted and put in place, glued in place. I'm just letting it dry here like this. One very important thing it notes in, and it's a sentence that if you're just looking at pictures you can miss it. The smaller tab goes into the top. If you don't put the small tab into the top, because I was just fitting it without having read the instructions, if you don't put the smaller tab in the top, then your wall will not fit, because this piece, the vertical piece here, will stick down too far to let you actually put the floor down in. So if you're happy with the alignment, I want that to go just back a hair. Once you're done with the alignment, set this aside, let it dry, because you're not going to be using it anymore in this step. Let me go ahead and move it over here. Not going to need this wall right now. I'm not going to put it on. Next step is going to require, well, shortly after the next step is going to require the ceiling tile or ceiling panel. And you can see, I think I got a little bit much paint on this. It says to paint these beams. Instead of painting them, because in the pictures, the beams are darker and the ceiling is lighter, I'm going to go the opposite way, because I've already got the ceiling really dark. I'm going to go ahead and leave the beams lighter. So let me go ahead and get them out, and we'll be back to put them together. Okay, so these are the ceiling beams, and one thing it does point out is that you've got the chamfered edge here and here. They kind of look, they don't match up very well. These are going to line up just like this. Matter of fact, let me throw some glue on here. And I highly suggest, if you're going to do this, get something like this. I've got 2 bottles. Major glue is going on like this. Really small joints like this with it is like this. Matter of fact, this is what I use to do the door frames earlier. I'm going to go ahead and use this, since this is actually a big, large area. Get the excess glue out of here and just put a bead of glue in here like that. Push this down inside. It fits really well. And then it says the short edge here. So let me go ahead and put this in. Put a little bit of glue in here. What you're trying to do is make sure you don't have glue squirting out everywhere. If you have a little bit come out, you can wipe it off, but ideally all the glue stays within the joint. So you got these 2 pieces. Let me make sure what's it say, J, longer edge. So you have the longer piece here, shorter piece here, and then you just fit this together like that. Like I said, you may get a little bit of seepage. Just grab a Q-tip or whatever you happen to have handy, wipe it off. Got a little bit there as well. And I'm holding it by one piece and it's coming apart, so let me set it back down, make sure everything is squared up. Okay, it says, mentions about aging them. So now I'm going to put this on the, set this on the ceiling and figure out, because I want my light probably to go right there. I'm going to set it up, and then I'm going to take a look and see where I should put the light for me in this section. And since it's going to be, these are the sides that are going to be facing down, the letters are all going to be up, I can leave this without doing any finish work to it. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've got this set in place the way they ask you to. They tell you to put the walls in place, and this one here is kind of wobbling a little bit. Once the bottom piece is on, it'll change that up a whole lot. And then you set this in place, matching it up to the lines on the, what looks like the floor, but is actually the roof or ceiling. Key thing is though, you want to match it up. It should match up to the walls. And it's kind of odd that this chamfer here is not right at the edge. That kind of threw me at first. I'm going to go ahead and get this glued down. Get this off of the purple mat there. Get this glued down. It's not going to match up perfectly with the wall here. It is pretty good here. Do not glue the walls at this point if you're doing this. So I'm going to run, instead of on the ceiling, I'm going to run the glue very thinly across the beams. And you don't need a whole lot. It's not structural. It's not really going to hold anything up. It's decorative. That's the key thing with the gluing. Less is more. You need enough to hold it in place, but you don't need so much that you get a sloppy mess. Very carefully line this up. Push it down. Got a little bit of seepage. Sorry if my head gets in the way. Got a little bit of seepage. Fits on there. I'm going to, because this leg popped loose, I'm going to let this dry, because we're done with this piece for right now. I'm going to let this dry, but I'm also going to put the floor back on. Like I said, this piece popped off. I want everything to stay perfect, and it'll also make sure that this is going to line up. I will tell you, it is a little bit of a bear to put this on, because this wall is a little bit warped. Don't know why. I constructed it exactly the way they said, but it's a little bit warped, so be aware, if you build this, it's wood. It is prone to warpage. So let me go ahead and take care of that, and then I'll be back to finish the building the mirror. And oh, by the way, this character, the name is Sniff. Don't know anything about him. Haven't watched very much Moomin. I watched a little bit, but we got another character in this pack. So I will be back. Okay, that took a little bit of effort, and this piece of flooring, actually, this seam, the glue came loose. I'm actually going to leave it that way until I have to attach it, because it was a little bit of a pain in the butt to get it on there, but now it's on. The walls are lining up. The gap that I was having between those walls is completely gone. You can see the seam, but the gap is gone. Just a little bit of push on here. It's going to take probably 50 pounds of books sitting on here to get the walls to seat completely. And this wall is pushing up a little, or this floor is pushing up a little bit, but it's there. I'm going to set it aside, let that dry. I just saw in the video a little bit of excess glue here. It will dry clear, but I don't, as much as possible, I don't want the excess. So, and I had some choice words when this broke off. That's all I'm going to say. So let me set this over here. We'll bring these parts over. And what I've got to do is I've got to cut this down, and then we're going to build a mirror. And does it say, it doesn't say tilted, hang it against the wall. I'm going to leave it wood, I'm pretty sure. So let me go ahead and get these parts cut out, get the dowel cut down. There is 28 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 4 millimeters, and then there's surplus. You always end up with a little bit of surplus in this stuff. So I will be back. Okay, so I've got all the parts laid out here, and it does actually say, after rereading the instructions, to paint it, but I'm not going to, because I like the wood look, and the way the parts are, I can take all the spots where I had to cut the glue or cut the parts apart and put them back towards the wall, because this will actually hang on the wall like this. So let me go ahead and put a little bit of glue on here. I'm just going to put a dot right here in the center because it's actually going to hold itself pretty well together anyway. Actually, there we go. The spot with the cut, where I cut the parts apart, are both against the back. A little bit of excess glue there. Do the same thing on this other side, making sure that you, when you do it, make sure you put it together the right way, because if these holes here, come on, don't line up across, you're not going to be able to finish the mirror. So a little bit of glue on all three, on all three spots. Take it, push it together like that. Hold it while you clean off any excess glue that seeped out. So that's pretty square. And then you're going to take, this is the front of the mirror. This is the back. Look for which side is better looking, because you're going to actually be able to rotate the mirror. Set it on here. This thinner piece here with the laser etched lines goes in the front, so you can see the details that are etched in here. Just lay a very thin bead of glue. Set it on, line it up as best you can. Just looking at it, it says to paint the frame and all that right now. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna paint the frame. I am going to leave this to dry. Here are the pieces that I cut. We've got the 28mm and the two 4mm pieces. Go ahead and put the 28mm piece into the frame piece here. And I am actually delaying a little bit so that I can let that dry. Put the 28mm piece through, all the way through. And so there you could add, so basically a small coat rack underneath the mirror. A very, very small drop of glue. It actually says to do this with either a cocktail stick, toothpick, whatever you call it in your country. Smooth it out a little bit. And so you can see the glue. When the glue dries, should dry clear. Got a piece of double-sided tape. Interesting, it do not have the double-sided tape in this pack, but that's okay. I'm gonna put this in here. Mirror looks really good like a mirror. And it's going to pop into the frame. And instead of trying to do the double-sided tape bit where it might pop back out, actually, look at that. No tape, just press fit. And it's in there. It might pop out eventually if you're polishing it or something like that, but that's why you don't touch this stuff. You can see it is actually working really well. Now the mirror works like a mirror. And then what you're going to do is you're going to line up that hole. There's one on either side. Could almost, if they'd have put that hole just a hair further back, you could almost run a bar completely across. But you're going to put that in there. You're going to slide this in here, and you're going to put a 4mm piece of wood between them, and then, you know, into through here, and then glue into the mirror back itself. And you're going to glue that in place to hold the mirror. You're going to only glue it on the outside so the mirror can actually rotate. This could end up being a little bit fiddly. If it does, I may have to pause the video and come back, because when things get ugly, I use some colorful metaphors to steal a line from a Star Trek movie. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit too fiddly to do on camera. I will put it together and I will be back. Okay, I got it in. A little bit fiddly, a little bit of dust particles on there. And use a hammer if you have a hobby hammer, because it is very difficult to get in there. It's kind of interesting though. Held by the sticks, you can adjust it or hang by a wall, to a wall. If you hang it on a wall, it's not going to let you adjust it very much. But we'll see what happens at that point. So that's the end of issue 12. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm enjoying it. This is a very calming build. It takes a lot more time than most of the part works that I do to do each issue. I mean, let's see, we are up to 26 minutes, and I've actually been working on this for about an hour, hour and a half. So, I mean, like I said, very enjoyable build. Moomin's available through DeAgostini. And that's it. Hope you're enjoying this video series. Like I said, I am. It's a very slow video series. It's one that I do when I have time, because it does take quite a bit of time. I'd like, you know, if you're enjoying this, please like and subscribe. Leave comments if you have any questions. I've had people ask me about the lighting. Lighting's going to be interesting. I'm actually beginning to think I may do the lighting a little bit different on higher floors. The plan is at this point to take a wire, run it over here, drop an LED through here, trench out so that the wire doesn't make the next floor not fit. And if the next floor, if the walls don't match up, that's going to change everything. Some of these may get cut out completely, because it might have been easier to run the walls up the outside walls. Run the wires up the outside walls. I do not know for sure. So, like I said, like, subscribe, leave comments. Come on over to Hobby Time Modelers on Facebook, YouTube, and Discord. Link should be in the description. We do a live stream of just a bunch of us hanging out on Friday nights and Sunday afternoons. Have a great day. Have a great day tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I will see you on the next video.